If you didn't know already, the Fountainhead network has moved from PoCo to Port Moody. We loved bringing PoCo their very own podcast promoting local businesses, but because we have moved, the name PoCommunity isn't going to work anymore. Thank you for the memories. PoCommunity 2020 to 2024. We're excited to bring you something new soon. Stay tuned.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of PoCommunity. On this episode, we welcome Shona Fraser. She's an interior designer as well as a Reiki master, and she's a member here at TFN who's an amazing part of our community. She tells us about her journey into interior design as well as her passion for Reiki, and you don't want to miss this one. Check it out. Shona, how's it going today?
Hi, Mike. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. It feels like it's been a long time coming.
Yes. I think both you and Aaron have mentioned it so many times, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get on the podcast. And then for whatever reason, it hasn't happened, but here I am now.
Well, I'm glad to have you on here while we're still in PoCo as well. Just like having you on in the studio. I definitely always wanted to have you on. You've been part of like our community for so long, and always been so helpful and just awesome to be around whenever you come around the space.
Thank
Thank
you so much.
no problem. That's the truth. So,
Aw.
well, yeah, you're a great person, Shona. I want our audience to know more about you. So tell us about yourself. Tell us about what you do.
Okay, that feels like it's a really long answer.
It can be, yeah.
Interrupt
We
me.
can
I'm
make
a
it
big talker.
last the whole half hour
I
if
was
we
like,
want.
who wants a 2-hour podcast? No.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor to see you guys go through your journey because I met your partner Aaron just before you opened.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of had my fingers on the pulse of TFN for so long now. And now I just live around the corner. So it's very bittersweet that this will not be the landing space anymore. But I'm grateful to be able to share my story today. It's difficult to know where to start.
Yeah.
Because I do a couple of things. My focus for my business is interior design. And as of earlier this year, I did launch a secondary mini business offering Reiki energy healing. So I've been studying Reiki on and off for a really long time. My first experiences with Reiki, I was actually 17. So I won't say how old I am now, but it was a while back. And I've always dabbled in different sort of holistic healing modalities, I guess you would say, because I live with chronic illness myself. So I started in the Reiki as a way to garner some self-healing, and realized that was really a journey that I wanted to be on and start to offer to other people and incorporate as sort of, I don't want to call it a side hustle. It's like I focus more on my interior design business. That's the bread and butter. I love it. I really think that that's like my chosen career. And then the Reiki is more like a vocation. So whatever comes to me through the Reiki, I'm very grateful for. But I'm not out there to like push it. I'm not heavy marketing it right now. But being able to incorporate these two seemingly very different walks of life has been an interesting journey for the past 6 months or so.
Yeah, you're a perfect example of doing what you're passionate. Well, you're doing like what you like to do and making a living from it, even if one is like the side hustle. You're passionate about those two industries, and that's the best work you're going to get out of yourself is when you actually love what you're doing. And that you're, like I said before, you're a joy to be around. So that always helps when you're working with somebody is their personality, and they're just like their flamboyance and their happiness. So like with interior design being, I feel like that's such a personal thing. People don't look at it, but like if you're designing, like let's say a business or someone's house, it's a very personal thing. So having someone like you to help along the journey of designing something, I feel is huge.
Thank you. I mean, I want to say there are so many different types of interior designers, and so many different types of people get into the industry for different reasons. There are people who are very technical and their approach to design is closer to architecture. There are people who are, they just love the trends and they love to kind of create their own style that people can buy into. There's lots of great examples of that. A lot of those people are who either start on or end up on like HGTV or having their own TV show because they have a very specific look and people are shopping for them for their look. And then there's those of us who are maybe more the artists and more the eccentrics. And that's where I like to sort of plant myself. Because I can recreate a trend. I can, see what's in all the magazines, see what's on the websites and, mold it to your space. And I can do that. And I do love to do that. But my goal with my interior design is always to like bring out the designer in you and like bring out the artist in you and try to find those little pieces that are definitely your own personality and what makes you happy. And even to the point of using a home in a different way. We all grew up and just how houses are made in North America, especially, it's like there's a living room, a family room, a dining, like everything's sort of predetermined. But if you don't live that way and you need your home to function differently, why not go for it? Why not move some walls and see what happens?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's being creative, and like I think the newer generations are kind of breaking that norm down where it's like it seems like everybody was in a mold for so long, like families needed to live in this style of house in this way, blah blah blah. But I think people are just using their creativity now a lot
Mm-hmm.
more because they're not getting it's not frowned upon anymore. I feel like it's almost like encouraged.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, one of the big things, of course, coming out of COVID is how much time we all spent at home and like how are we using our space? How are we using, how are we now incorporating work-life balance or whatever that
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a thing.
But
I try to make it a thing.
yeah, there's no such thing. I read and yeah, there's this movement out there where like there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's hard, but like, oh, we could harp on that forever. But anyway, just like, okay, you have this essentially this box. How do I make it come alive? How do I make it reflect me? How do I make it move with my energy? How do I maximize for storage? Like there's uh, so much to think about and so much to implement. And that's, I mean, in many ways, that's why I have a job, right? It's because for yourself, you might go into a room and just be really overwhelmed and say, okay, if you're creating a home office, for example, say, okay, I need this many bookshelves, I need this many drawers, I need a desk, I need, an ergonomic chair. You might need somewhere for people to come sit with you, what have you. And it gets overwhelming. Whereas for me, it's exciting. I go in, I'm like, all right, where can we put all this stuff? Where can we, make Mike's habitat reflect you plus be functional? Yeah. And I'm grateful that I get to do that with and for people because I know how it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, it really can. I know as designing a business as well, you're trying to get everything else that goes alongside opening a business. It's a lot to think about. And as you know, as business owners, entrepreneurs, your brain works 26 hours a day. Like it's
Yeah.
really like go, go, go. So having someone help you with those decisions, because they are major decisions, and sometimes you just need a little bit of help. Like you're overwhelmed, that little bit of help goes so far. I know the people that helped us in the beginning here, we couldn't have done a lot of mentally couldn't have done a lot of the stuff. Physically, I think anybody can really put their mind to doing it, but the mental part of it was the most difficult. Trying to think about all these new steps you've never done before while you're going and have a million other new steps you've never done before. It can be quite difficult.
Absolutely. And especially in a commercial space, you do have to take into consideration things like fire code and, workflow. Like, sure, you could take a room and for you guys cram a bunch of desks in and be like, here's your working space. But like, how are people going to move around it? How are people going to come and go from the kitchen, the bathroom, the reception? How are those coming in to meet with your members going to receive the space? Like, there's so many working parts. And I love to be collaborative with my clients because in the end, I leave.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? Like, I know that that for a lot of industries, even a lot of designers, there's sort of a feeling of proprietary ownership over the design and what it should look like and what it should be. But in the end, like, I'm gone. It's not my space. So um, part of why I love that there are so many different, especially in Vancouver, so many different types of designers and types of approach is that you can really sort of research who you want to work with and whether their approach is what you need for your end goals as well.
yeah. I could
Yeah.
see Vancouver definitely being like. There's a lot of difference of life and just ideologies and just
Yeah.
different industries. People that represent different industries as well. Like just, I feel like it's got to be one of the most creative places in North America. At least I think it's very corporate. North America has been for a while, but Vancouver still has this very arts based,
Hmm.
like just. Uh, Population. You go into Vancouver and you just see like there's definitely more emphasis towards arts, bold color. Uh, so I think it probably goes really well with what you're passionate about, like your kind of design. So, what drove you into it? Is it something you've been passionate about like since you were a kid? Is it,
That's such a good question.
yeah,
So, all of my life, I wanted to be a police officer.
yeah,
This is going to be a
completely
weird
different. That's
It's
completely different.
like- everyone's like, excuse me?
Nobody wants to do
So
that.
I know. And like, with the way the world has been, especially in the past 5 years, I'm very glad that that was not
Yeah,
what ended up happening. So, my uncle was a police officer for 25 years, and he and I have the same birthday. We're very much alike. Granted, he's back in Glasgow in Scotland, so
mm,
a different type of policing
yeah,
back there. But ever since I was a kid, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna follow in my uncle's footsteps. Like, I never put any thought into it. I just had this feeling that I was meant to do what he did, and I didn't have to make any other choices in life. So everything I did through high school, college, and then I went to Simon Fraser University, was to get a criminology degree and join either the RCMP, VPD, or another local constabulary. And I got 3.5 years through my criminology degree, and I'm studying serial killers and all these horrible
yeah,
things. And I phoned my mother one day in just panic and tears, and I said, I can't do this. This is not for me, and I don't know what else to do because I had never conceived of doing anything but police work. So I went through it and I was like, my mom is a social worker. So I was like, maybe I can transfer the things I've learned over to social work of some sort, or maybe I can go into psychology. And it was my mom who said, when you were a kid, your dollhouse was your favorite toy. You were always moving furniture around and organizing things. And when I was a teenager, I was a nerd and a weirdo and a punk rocker, and I did a lot of weird things when I was a kid. But one of the things I loved to do was actually just buy a can of paint and repaint my room on
yeah,
a rainy weekend. My friends were out smoking pot and doing whatever, and
yeah.
here's Shona painting her bedroom for no reason, right?
If you
Um,
did the first thing before you painted the room, it's
yeah,
even
yeah.
funnier.
Well, yeah, my dad can tell you about a couple of murals I did in the basement that he was like, what? My dad's an artistic and creative guy. For him to be like, what have you done? It was a big deal. Um, but yeah, so she was the one who pointed out, why don't you explore that? And I did love HGTV. Like, that was at the height of Trading Spaces. That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like the show. And so I just kind of like, I didn't turn my nose up at it or anything, but I was like, it was not, I had no concept of doing something like this
yeah,
instead as a career. I was like, oh yeah, that's an actual job I can do. And like, actually quite a well respected and, well researched, well developed line of work. Like, it
yeah.
just never occurred to me. So I enrolled in an introductory course at BCIT, and the rest is the rest is now. The rest is history.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a thing where you never think what you're passionate about can pay the bills. They
Yeah.
don't, I think school doesn't really push you. It's like they have generalized industries that they kind of push people towards. Uh, Yet there's so many more industries you can get involved with. And I think that's the thing. They rush kids to believe, kind of think that they need to know what they're going to do when they're in high school with their lives, when in reality, I'm 36, I still don't know what I fully want to do. And I think it's becoming more normal for that. Like your story about putting all your eggs in the criminology and like that basket, the amount of people even in that industry I know that tried to do the same thing you did, but with multiple as well as that, it's staggering where they get to college, they're halfway through college, and they're like, there's absolutely no way.
Yeah.
I feel people really need to put more emphasis on trying to take what they love, what they're good at, and try to do something with that, because in reality, that's going to get their best work ethic. That's if you love what you do, the world is going to work better if everybody's doing stuff they actually like.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I think the stumbling block that I found at a tender age, like my parents both, and maybe this is coming from a Scottish background and just the way that they were raised. And I mean, I was raised Scottish, but I obviously, by my accent, lived in Canada long enough that I'm not, anyway, that's a different topic. But like my parents, they did the one thing their whole lives.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they were stuck. Like my dad is a naval architect, so he started in ship design and then moved through into oversight and then moved through into inspection. So there's always like wiggle room within their industries. And my mom being a social worker, she's worked in everything from supporting new immigrants to Canada through to like seniors, through to people with disabilities. So there's always been sort of like a pocket and everything within it. And so that's just what was modeled to me. I was like, okay, I'm going to choose a job.
Yeah.
And then the way I grew up, my parents never forced me to continue hobbies. So if I had a hobby that I loved, I would do it till I didn't love it anymore. And my parents were like, okay, you can try something new, whatever. They weren't invested in me. I did figure skating when I was a kid, and my parents never expected me to go to the Olympics or.
Yeah.
So I kind of had these two ways of being that were presented to me. So when I hit this block and ran into this wall of like, I had this expectation of myself that I would have the job and then continue the hobbies, and just didn't have the concept that those could be the same thing. So
yeah, it's amazing when you figure that out, though.
Yeah.
Because it can be stressful too, because it's the idea of like, will you still love your hobby if you make it work? But if you can make that work successful, you will never be happier than you could be if you're doing what you love every single day. I feel like, I know you're an artistic person, you're creative. Being able to use creativity for your line of work is, I feel like, one of the most meditative things you can do.
Yes.
And when it helps other people out, not just your own well-being, it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And I feel like today's times is the most successful I feel like artists can be, and kind of merging with other industries. We saw that with our business. Media is so crucial for social media is so crucial for businesses, entrepreneurs to promote themselves. So meshing those industries, every kind of industry is going to need this kind of like this promotion, essentially.
Yeah.
That creatives now, if you are a video like producer, graphic designer, more needed than ever. So people that want to use their creativity for their work need to know this, that there is actually more work than ever in these industries. When I went to school, whatever it was, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, for college, for music, that was a risk. There was no money in that, and I know that because I tried to make money in it, and then all of a sudden I'm a warehouse manager, right? Like it's very difficult. But I think finally now, if I knew back then for music that there's all these other things you can do as a music producer, whether it be selling samples for businesses to have custom music, or to put music into movies, or like just selling off, doing less for more. There's actually it's quite significant how much money there is to be made in that industry, but they don't teach kids that. They don't teach you how your creativity can pay off in the end.
I love that analogy too, because I'm a musician. I've played drums for almost 30 years now. And I was always in garage bands, and like I was very lucky. I got to be in the Vancouver music scene at its height in the late 90s and early 2000s. So I feel like a lot of my friends, anybody watching this, I'm not going to name names, but don't be mad at me, but a lot of us went into music thinking we were going to be rock stars.
Yeah.
And how many of us are rock stars?
None.
That's right. So I love that you brought up that fact that those people I know from the scene back in the day who are still successful are those that were willing to step into the roles in production, step into, engineering, and then do their craft on the side, perform on the side. And I think that's what I always thought I'd do. I just didn't, like, I never wanted to be a professional musician. I'm self-taught. I'm not a good enough drummer to tour. I'm not a good enough drummer for the studio, apart from the bands that I've played with. And that was never my thing. Like, it was fun for me. It was not meant to be a career, but those that I've seen take their music and be successful are the ones who are, they don't want to be front and center, or they do, but they're willing to also do, the nitty gritty work in order to further their own creative side.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're right. That's sort of like trickling down. I'm a few years older than you. I don't know if there's enough for a generation gap, but I do see like people in their 30s now, like able to have that mindset shift and be like, okay, I really love doing this thing and I can't quite get where I want to go with it as it is. So how can I do things surrounding it that still support my love and my passion for my craft?
Yeah, because I mean, we all know schooling for artistic stuff is ridiculously priced. Like, it makes no sense. The jobs that seem like they pay the best have the cheapest schooling, and the ones that like you have to grind to make a living in costs you, like, go to Vancouver Film Studio and you're like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt after 3 years, and it's just like, okay, where do I go from here? And you're all of a sudden you're working for free as an assistant, or like and you've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. It's difficult.
Yeah.
So having those other like ideas for what you can do when you go to school for these like very interesting, great things, but how can you take that and actually put some money into your own pocket? Because nothing's worse than financial stress killing your passion.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen so many times where it's this bitterness. It's like, okay, well, I spent all this money on film school and now I'm like literally not making any money doing this, and they quit, and then they go and work 9 to 5 for the rest of their life that they hate no matter what. But just being creative with your creativity.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like that makes a lot of sense, is trying to take whatever you're good at creatively and just doing a bunch of steps to try to find an outlet of still doing it. I know, like, I've seen it too much with people, especially in the last few years, with rough times, that they just, their passion is gone.
Right.
From their passions.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's heartbreaking. And I mean, I think what lights me up a little bit about mindset shifts over the past few years, whether it's because of COVID or just in general, this sort of breaking down of systems, and I'm very much fight the power, like breaking down this expectation of, you do a 4-year degree and then you get a job and you go up the corporate ladder or whatever. I think that a lot of people your age and younger are really letting go of that and finding ways that they can, I mean, I guess because I do know so many people in the film industry, and that's such a big area in Vancouver specifically, where there's like so many different ways you can get involved. And be creative and whatnot. And like starting out as a production assistant, or I did background acting for 8 years, like starting out somewhere that isn't your end goal, but like really learning about how does it work? Like I feel like a lot of people are going that route instead of just, I'm going to go to school and let a professor tell me how things work, or a teacher. which is obviously necessary from a technical point of view. But even for me, like being on a set and seeing, you know, how the grips work, how the, you know, how do you hold a boom mic, like all these little things that you wouldn't think of if you're sitting in a classroom, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna be the next James Cameron or who's Christopher Nolan, who's popular now.
I don't know.
Showing my age.
Whoever, one of the Marvel directors, I don't know.
The next Taika Waititi, like, yeah, like learning things from the ground up, I think, and not giving yourself such harsh timelines of like, I have to be, and in life too, right? Like I have to be graduated with a degree by whatever age that is, 24, 25. I have to be married with children. I have like all these things that our parents' generations, it was like the societal expectation. All of that has really fallen away in the past maybe 10 to 15 years.
Well, yeah, if you're a practical learner, the system was not meant for you.
No.
So it's like, it's like, so nowadays, like, I feel like unless you're a doctor, certain trades, some trades that can be self-taught, but certain trades that are really like dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. But like most jobs now, and actually when I was in college, one of my teachers, might have been a mistake on his part, but it actually kind of, it always sat with me, and this is years ago, we had a huge dropout rate after he said this too. Like literally, like I think we had 7 people drop out of our class.
Oh wow.
He probably got in trouble for it if he went back to the head of the school, like what he said. But he's like, basically said the diploma at the end of this isn't going to mean anything.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if there's a kid in his basement who's a music prodigy, who's 13 years old, has 0 classical training, doesn't have music theory, doesn't have any of this, but he's making amazing music, a record label's not going to care he went to school.
Yeah.
And that sat with me, and it sat with the people that quit the course, because we were in at this point, the 3rd semester. We learned a lot of the stuff that we needed to learn. And now the last 2 semesters were really just like sprucing those like skills up that they dropped out. They didn't want to pay for the last semesters. And it definitely sat with me because it's completely like obvious that it's the truth.
Yeah. In creative industry, I mean, interior design is not regulated.
Yeah.
So I have known lots of people who are successful in interior design that don't have any schooling in it.
Yeah.
Either they're just naturally good at it or are good enough at marketing that they can take off.
Yeah.
But anyone can call themselves an interior designer.
Yeah, if you decorate a few places, that looks amazing. If you did a good job, and somebody's like, wow, you're really good at that, then you have that idea, oh, maybe I can try it out. Doesn't mean it'll always work out.
And that's where things do get tricky in terms of the technical side, because, for example, if someone came to me and said, you know, I want to do interior design, but I don't have any schooling, I'd say, that's awesome, that's great. Please try to stick to styling and decor, though, because if you start to get into anything technical where you're maybe redoing a kitchen or a bathroom and you don't have enough knowledge about plumbing, or you don't have enough knowledge about electrical, or you start telling clients that they can move a wall, and then a contractor comes in later and is like, absolutely you cannot, it's going to be another, you know, 100,000 to put in beams or, you know, remake your ceiling or your roof. Like that's where it gets sticky with people who cross over a line. But if you say, I want to present myself as an interior designer and just do furnishing, go for it. Like do it, take that ball and run. It's just knowing where your lines should be. Obviously in music you can't hurt anyone by playing a chord wrong, like you know what I mean. And there are so many things, I think, like interior design, where there are facets of it that you can do successfully and ethically, I would say morally, without having any schooling behind you. So
it's like a balance act. It really is. It's not. It's like any business. Don't take on more than you can chew. Like it's just concentrate on what you know. You can learn over time. Or you can get those training. You can go to school afterwards, even as a successful business, if you want to add to what you offer. But trying it out in the beginning, and like if you're like, I just tell everybody that I talk to, like, just try doing something that you're passionate about. If you don't want to try to make money off of it, it's just a passion, that's fine and all. But if you create, like, do something that you really care about on a daily basis, man, everything's gonna change. I think you've talked about past generations, so have I. That standard of like life, I'm glad that we're breaking it. Like when I
Mhm.
was at school, it wasn't broken yet, but I think it got broken when so many, I've had so many friends that did 8 years of university, got the degrees, and then they go to the career that they're supposed to start in, and it's like, here's $17 an hour. And they're like, so it's just really like, I find it's what you know, but it's also who you know. And like, to your fact about like movie sets or like TV show sets and learning what's going on around you, if you're trying to become, like, let's say, an actor, and you're on that set and you're working background work or you're doing whatever, you're meeting everyone in that industry
Mhm.
that is involved in that industry. And if you get along with them on a personal level on anything, you don't know who they are. You don't know where they can like bring you up. They
Mhm.
don't know where they'd be like, oh, I know you now personally. You might be good here. Like this
Yeah.
might be something you never thought about. It's who you meet, and just when you're open to learning,
Yeah.
and not being stubborn about what you want to do and be so stuck on that. Like the amount of things I could call myself as a career wise now, I don't even know what I am. I don't know what I
Yeah.
am, but it's
Yeah.
because like just the journey has taken me different directions that it's like, oh, this can be something that you can do as a living.
Yeah.
And I really try to push people, just creative outlet. It does so much. It does so much for your spirit,
Mhm.
being able to like amplify how you feel. Like I tell people, businesses, podcasts, unless you're really like amped up for an angry way, like maybe don't get on a podcast because you
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
cancel your business. But it really is good. It's a good outlet.
Mhm.
I encourage it with everyone. I want to get into Reiki a little bit
Yeah. Yeah.
before we I think we're probably get close to a half hour, but
Yeah.
I do
Sure.
want to talk about it a little bit. That's
Yeah.
something that you decided I'm gonna try doing this now too, just because you're passionate about it. You like helping people, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because it does flow off of what we were just talking about because it's my Reiki journey in learning and where I've come to be a Reiki master practitioner came because despite wanting to dismantle systems and despite having this sort of different worldview on how we can create careers for ourselves and build, I am still a paper collector. I like to collect certificates. I like to be able to prove that I went to school for this thing or I did the appropriate training. I still do have that part of myself. I'm a Virgo, so I'm still very much like, I gotta have that piece of paper that proves I did the thing. So I did my Reiki training through a local couple. They go by KM Reiki and they're based in Coquitlam. And I did the first 3 levels just for myself. Um, and then I decided to go back and really concentrate and really see where it could take me. And I'm glad that I did because I ended up doing my full master level. And then this year I completed my practicum in order to become a part of the Canadian Reiki Association.
Nice.
So I offer 4 different types of Reiki. I study under a specific Reiki school called Usui Reiki. There are lots of different schools of Reiki because it's a really cool modality that's based on a lot of ancient healing arts that were brought together, and kind of a little manual was made so that everybody in the world could learn how to do this beautiful energy exchange. So in my school of Reiki, there's distance healing where we could, we'd have a phone call and then I would have you go lie down, put on some music, and then I'm able to send you the energy remotely. And then we have a little phone call afterwards and kind of debrief on any messages that I received and how you felt during the session. And then there's, of course, in-person Reiki. The style I do is hands-off. So I float my hands above a participant and channel the energy that way. There are a couple of kinds of Reiki where they're hands-on or there's like a passing of fingers kind of thing. I offer animal Reiki, which is like I love so much. If anybody's interested in animal Reiki for their pet, please let me know because I
Evie.
would love to try it on Evie because my cats actually hate it.
Yeah.
I think because my frequency, my personal vibration changes so much when I go into a Reiki meditation that they're like, "You're not mom anymore. What is happening?" And they run away. I haven't tried it on the puppy yet. I have just got a puppy, so I gotta try it on him. And then I have a form of Reiki that I've developed myself, which is a blend of the energy healing and soft touch aromatherapy. So in that, I would have someone come in, lie face down as if they're getting massage, and I apply the aromatherapy first, and then they get sort of a mini Reiki session on top of that. So I'm obviously very jazzed up and passionate about these offerings. Right now I'm doing it mobile as well because I don't have, I mean, I've done meditation courses here in your flex space, and I'm excited to get those started up again once you guys are in the new space.
Yeah.
But I'm doing Reiki mobile right now. So I don't have a studio space at home that's appropriate to use. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see where that journey takes me. Because again, it's been like a soft launch, little bits here and there through 2023 that culminated in the meditation workshops that I did here. And yeah, I feel like interior design is where I want to be putting my focus in terms of marketing and media like this. And I'll be participating in the Home and Garden Show in February of 2024. And the Reiki is just sort of happening.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's one of those things that does just, like with any energy work that you do, healing work that you do, anything where you open up your spiritual self to the wilder world, it's just happening, and the right people have been showing up. So
is it something that like really helped you in the past, and then it's like putting? I've heard they've had a couple people involved in that industry on the podcast in the past, and everybody, it's the same thing. It's that they've tried other things for any kind of health reasons, and they've tried everything, and nobody ever goes with the holistic approach unless you know somebody that has done it, or you've heard about it through someone. But it's worked for a lot of people that I've talked to. So it's just that the shoe doesn't fit everybody, that they keep on. And it's like me, with wrestling, many injuries I've had in the past, going to different kinds of like massage therapy and chiropractic, and it's from friends telling me, you got to try this, and then I do that and it doesn't work for me. So it's just like it's so different for everybody. So having options, I think there's just more emphasis on the holistic approach now. I don't want to say it's just because people have less faith in the medical system, but I will say
we
that
could do another podcast on that for sure.
It's really it's good to have those options, and just it's all like, it's out of passion, it's out of something that's it's been proven to yourself. So always doing it for that reason, that like I don't know, you've met Mimi too. She's awesome. A holistic therapy, and same thing, like tried so many different things for years, doctor saying, oh, we can't fix it, and then one thing changes, you try something and it literally changes your life. So I really appreciate just differences and how everybody needs their own thing. Everybody does.
And Reiki is not for everyone. And some people, it's a very specific, or not specific is not the word, it's a very individual experience as well. Some people find the sessions, for example, a good friend of mine who volunteered while I was doing my practicum, anytime I worked with, she has joint pain, specifically in her hips, and anytime I kind of worked on that area, she would wake up from the session and be like, was I walking around? Like it felt very physical for her. And then I have some folks that say, well, I didn't really feel anything. And then 3 days later, they'll text me and say, oh, I've been having all these crazy, weird dreams. And like a whole bunch of problems that were on my plate seem to have just like resolved themselves. And I feel so much clearer. So it works so much differently for everybody, because it's an inviting in of a universal understanding, rather than going to a doctor and being like, okay, well, you can take this pill or you can do this surgery. Like there's always just so much black and white. And I could go on for hours about how the system is failing us.
Well, I mean, it's even more so now. I can't get into everything, but it's in my opinion, sickening right now how bad our medical system is.
It's really hard. And I think that in British Columbia, things that I didn't know until very recently is how bureaucratic the running of our healthcare system is, and how a lot of people in decision-making roles aren't even doctors. So doctors have their hands tied in a lot of things that they can do. I mean, I have specialists who are absolutely wonderful, and I'm sure if they were within the container of how the health authorities are run, if they were allowed to do everything they wanted to do for me, I'd be essentially cured.
Yeah.
But they have such strict ways. You cannot prescribe her this. You cannot give her this therapy. She has to go to this kind of doctor. And then I had an instance where there's a very specific therapy that helps me a lot. And I have a specialist who is not allowed to send me for that therapy. I had to be referred to a hematologist. And granted, this was during the peak of COVID, so I'm going to be looking into it again. But the hematologists were so booked that if the wait time was a certain length, they would just release a patient if it was non-lethal. So it's like, I mean, this is obviously, I take it personally and I have some resentment and bitterness, but it's so disheartening for me to know that this one doctor who wants to help me so badly is not allowed to send me directly, tries to help me by, contacting a good colleague of his that he knows will follow through and like work together with him, and that person having to say, and the letter that he sent back was so compassionate and lovely, just saying, I am so sorry, but given how backed up I am, I have to release this patient and I can't help her because I have people whose lives are in danger. Obviously that's way more important. And for me, it's a quality of life, not a endangering thing, but it's just like, there must be a better way. There must be a better way.
It's nothing against the people in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely
it's the way the industry is set up. And
systems.
And like, if you don't hear about it, because I mean, they're censoring our media now, but just like the amount of doctors, nurses, everything leaving this province because of how, I'm going to ass backwards it is, and moving to other provinces that are doing it better, or moving out of the country, because if you move to the States and do it privately, they can actually make a living. When you're a doctor in British Columbia and you're not even like a doctor's, you always know that's one of the top paying industries to be part of because it's stressful and it's a lot of work and you're saving lives. If you're living a middle class life in Vancouver and even less than that as a doctor, why the hell would you stay?
Yeah.
There's no reason. You're going to move somewhere where it's like you're valuable and also the system works. Here it's sad. And I know a lot of the family, friends that work in the industry that are so overworked, and they're great at what they do, but if you only have half the staff you need and all those guys are overworked, how much good work are you getting out of people when they're working 14-hour shifts and they're exhausted? It's just I feel it's not an easy fix, but man, they are doing the wrong things.
Yeah. And again, when it comes down to bureaucracy, that's always going to be a fail.
Yeah,
it's always going to be a fail if you're putting administration before people.
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
Too many gatekeepers. This is just people, like there's too many departments. And it's like when the department should be health and helping people, not, is this going to work for these people? Or we have to send it down through 8 people until we finally get a final decision. And then by that point, the person's dead. Like, it's just like, it sounds really cruel, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't want to get passionate. I want to promote you. I want to talk about.
Let's bring it back to something positive.
We'll bring it back. I want people to. I love your personality. I just love being around you. I want our viewers to contact you if they need any interior design or Reiki sessions, because just knowing you, talking to you, I know you can help other people out, so I want them to come to you. So let us know, what are your socials, where can they find you?
So I have both the interior design and Reiki under one social media heading for now. So you can find me at Heartspace Shona. So it's heart like heart, and space like a room, and then my name, which is SHONA. And then my interior design business is heartspaceinteriors.com, and the Reiki and meditation side is thisisheartspace.com.
Oh, awesome, Shona. I appreciate you being on today.
Thanks,
I'm very excited. I'm so happy that you finally came on the show.
I know.
and it's still while it's in PoCo, so we got this PoCommunity episode that we wanted, and I'm like, so thankful that you came on.
Thank you.
And thank you all for viewing our podcast today. Thank you for supporting this podcast, and make sure that you like and comment on this video as well as share it. We love when people share our content. We're trying to help out business owners in the area, and so it helps out greatly when you share our content and you share their content. Thank you for viewing and watching PoCommunity today. Have a good one.